Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Football Uncensored podcast with myself, Rob Kirton, and of course, John Sitton. We're going to pick straight back up on England in the Euros. We digressed ever so slightly from England in the Euros in our previous recording, but it was certainly very relevant and still connected to Gareth Southgate and the squad, and that's what we're going to try and pick up on a little bit more now: the performance and the tactics and the selection of players, or the non-selection of players, possibly. So you briefly spoke about Southgate's legacy and was it the right decision for him to go? And he spoke on Alan Hudson's podcast later on today about the successor. So we'll leave who should or will be the successor, depending on which side of the coin you fall on there. And we'll try and look at a bit of the performance, John, if you don't mind.
Okay. I mean, what I said earlier, I went into a bit of a rant and off at tangents, but they're all linked.
Of course it is.
I've got to say, Rob, it's all linked. Because sort of this, then you had the other geezer, the big lump with the glasses. You know, I'll never forget that. We're gonna have a root and branch review. All they keep doing is reviewing, then they review the review. You know what I mean? And then it's when we're gonna pass out from the back. Then we're gonna then it's 3 passes or less. I know, but everyone else is playing out from the back. All right, so we're bringing coaches who can bring the youngsters through to pass out from the back. Then they fall out with a person who's and the organisation who wants goals, who say goals are scored 3 passes or less. Then they bring in all school teachers. Then there's people who never kicked a ball really in anger. They make their way high up in the FA. They're staffing courses at Lillishall that I attend. It's led to them getting jobs in the pro game. One's a revered youth development thing. I mean, the best youth development in the world. How do you know? How is he? Can't be. That's got to be at Barcelona, surely. But you know, all the promo bullshit. I can't have it because I was there and I seen it and I heard it. I was there in conversations, listening to conversations, making notes on sessions. Way back when, you know, 25, 30 years ago. And we just continuously shoot ourselves in the foot. And then culminating in, you know, a reinvented love in between the press and the players and the press and the manager. Subsequently, you've got a load of them heaping praise on him for being runner-up twice, making a semi, getting out-thought and tactically outmaneuvered, and then quarter-final in an October World Cup. When everybody's fresh, by the way. Everybody's fresh, so there's no end of season fatigue syndrome excuse /excuse, because that one was in October. So do you know what I mean? Other things have it, but I'll say, you said something, I'm going to say something controversial. I'll say something controversial. I don't think we're a country. I think we're a brand. I think England is a brand. Consequently, one of the ingredients of that brand is appointing the appropriate manager with a nice, safe, suburban accent. If he's from the home counties or if he's from up north, it don't matter. He's got a great, because he's from up north, he'll have a superior work ethic. Look how that panned out. Yeah. Anyway, that's my opinion. I think we're a brand. I don't think we're a country. I think we're a brand. I think that can be reflected in all the fan zones. Yeah. Which I won't go into because it might start rubbing people up the wrong way. But anyway.
Well, if it does, you know, so be it. As you say, it's all about opinions, and everyone's entitled to theirs. And some people don't like others. Some people do. So, but tactically, throughout the tournament, I think it's fair to say, from me as the layman to you as the expert, we started the tournament in a different way that we ended it, in terms of formation, not so much in terms of personnel, because as you and I have spoke off air on this podcast, very limited changes in terms of starting personnel, and we'll maybe go into the substitutions a little bit later. But yeah, tactically we started differently till we finished. Where where do you think we went right? Where do you think we went wrong, or more importantly, how did we go wrong?
It went wrong since 1966. You know, people going, "Oh, where there's no West Ham players in the side." There was a big case for Jarrod Bowen to be in the side. I said, "Well, how do you explain the Euros in '68 when we got knocked out by Yugoslavia?" I think it was Yugoslavia. Anyway,
Oh,
it's neither in there. But the bottom line is what you're talking about tactics confirms I'm in a no-lose situation. It's a win-win, with a manager, whatever manager they appoint. Tony and Lord Hudson were going around, hovering around one. I mentioned another, but I said it don't matter to me because the bottom line is I don't think for a long time now we've got a settled DNA. And my settled DNA would be what I've always said, which is to be tactically adaptable. I don't think it's worked on enough from when players are kids. You're supposedly dealing with a creme de la creme. Let me give you, for instance, you're supposedly dealing with a creme de la creme. They should be able to slot into any position like I could, in any system like I could, because I was well educated at Chelsea. It wasn't a problem to me. Right back, centre midfield, left back. I even had a few games in youth team after one day's rehearsal up front against Crystal Palace in the FA Youth Cup. And I was very good for about 70 minutes. Then I ran out.
They must have been a fair side in those days, John, to be fair.
Yeah, they were. I could have joined them. I could have joined them. Malcolm Allison offered me a big bung to go and sign from. I was loyal to Chelsea because I was happy there. Who knew what was going to come out afterwards about which I'll be addressing in book 2, and it made me look a mug, but only because I stood my ground and other people didn't, with regards to the child sex abuse allegations. But anyway, that's a different story. I think we're lacking DNA. Part of that DNA is tactical adaptability. Like I said, I'll give you an example, right? We struggled with, right from Iceland, we struggled under, which I don't think it should be a foreigner. I think we struggled with a great group of players under Capello and a great group of players under Ericsson. I thought we should have got more out of them. There was the debate, because he brought up Lampard, there was the debate about Lampard, Scholes and Gerrard being in the same side. How would you accommodate them? I explained it. Under the so-called manager, they stuck Scholes out on the left and couldn't play Gerrard and Lampard together. I explained briefly how you could, all three of them. Hudson brought up we struggled with the low block. There's ways to beat that. And I said, yeah, I know there are. Right. Well, we're not tactically adaptable enough in terms of trying to beat it. And not only that, I don't think the coaching staff and the management made the decisions quick enough, whether it was against Croatia in Russia, whether it was in the Russia World Cup, whether it was against Italy in the Euro final or this Euro final. Okay. It's a mindset from when they're kids. From how they're conditioned with regards to being able to adapt in different formations. And I've got to put this to you, Rob, right? Because while I think of it, I can't subscribe to this nonsensical piecemeal bullshit about I accept gaining momentum. I played in the side that gained momentum. We went from fourth from bottom to a playoff position and then won the semi-final with the playoffs and the final with the playoffs and got promoted. I understand the concept of momentum. I truly do. And Kevin Campbell, may rest in peace, was like a breath of fresh air when he arrived. A cracking young man, credit to his family, a credit to his profession. Great playing habits, well coached at Arsenal, and a good pro. Didn't think he was above anyone because he come from Arsenal. Settled in, fitted like hand in glove with us, and we got promoted, right? So I understand the concept of momentum. What I can't stand is this piecemeal bullshit about we're reaching our peak, or we're peaking at the right time, or we're just coming good at the right time. This is what I'm going to put to you. If you play for me, you reach your peak as you're walking up the tunnel for your warm-up. You're about to peak as the ref blows his whistle, that first whistle to kick off. That is when you peak. Then you peak for the next 96, 97 minutes. Then you come down the other side and you have your rest and your recuperation and you get full of good food, and you get your massages and your thing. But you peak. You don't peak from game to game, because where Southgate said about us beating Slovenia, Slovakia, and Denmark when we struggled against Denmark, that's arrogance and entitlement. No, arrogance and entitlement came from your side and your players when you said, paraphrasing, but we're peaking at the right time. We're getting better as the tournament goes on. Spain proved me 100% right, because they won 7 out of 7. They peaked every fucking time they run up the tunnel. You understand? They peaked from the first whistle to the last whistle, right? And they were feral when they defended. To quote a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, Big Des, right? When we got done by someone, I forget who it was anyway, and then they said about he compared Argentina to us when Argentina won that World Cup. We're not feral enough, Sits. He says we're not, and I knew exactly what he meant. And Spain were all over everybody defensively, got the ball back, and then when they probed when they could, they passed forward when they could, and when they needed to be patient, they were patient. This is what you mean by keeping the ball, just being patient when necessary. You know what I mean? And certain people down the years have made disparaging, who should know better, made disparaging remarks about an ex-teammate of mine, Ray Wilkins, about being the crab. No one could do more damage with it. But let me tell you this. There's a fact. No one could do more damage with a pass than Ray Wilkins other than Glenn Hoddle in that era. Right? And yet, if he elected not to chance a 30, 40, 50-yard ball or a little threaded ball, and he was patient, it's because it weren't on. Because believe me, either foot, he could do it with either foot. Right? So, this is one of them things where people chip in who should know better. I think the person who gave him the nickname was Doherty, the crab, about keep passing it sideways. I'm pretty sure it was Doherty.
Could be, yeah.
At the time when they should know better. But that's how poorly educated then. It was just a case of building up a rapport with your chairman, and then you had carte blanche and the running of the club. There was no tactical or coaching nous, with one or two exceptions, namely the likes of Allison and
just on that,
Venables coming through. But
yeah, I'd personally like to know if anyone feel free to comment, because I don't know. I know they had a lot of caps between. I think Wilkins had
80 something.
80 something, I think 84, 86 maybe.
Yeah,
and Hoddle was in the 50s, 57, 59, something like that. Nowhere near enough, in my humble opinion. Be interested, and similar eras they played. I'd be interested to know how many times they played in centre midfield for England together.
Yeah.
I'd wager it's probably not that many.
Yeah. There was no such thing as the Makaleli role. You just took turns. Inevitably, Ray would have filled in a lot for Glenn, because Glenn was more forward thinking. He would probably make runs off of the front man, as in the volley, when another ex-teammate of mine, Chris Jones, laid it off and he hit that screamer on the volley for Tottenham at White Hart Lane. He would make that third man run off the front man. So in, knocked down, and then he hit an unbelievable volley. I think he was actually, both feet were off the ground when he hit it.
I think you're right.
And Ray was a different type of player, but he could also pitch in with some cracking goals. You know what I mean? But don't for 1 minute tell me he couldn't hit a killer pass, because I saw it. I saw it every day in training. I saw it every day on a Saturday as an apprentice, and I broke into a team where I saw it. You know what I mean? The problem was when he left, you had no one to give the ball to. Tactically, I thought that's what we were lacking. But I mean, Bellingham drives with the ball. He drives on. He runs well with the ball. He's got tricks, and he showboats a little bit. Unbelievable talent, possibly approaching world class. But I think we were too dependent on him. Someone brought up the thing, I think it might have been Simon Jordan's podcast. So Declan Rice in one game made one forward pass in 90 minutes. Foden, I think he played slightly out of position. Then he took it upon himself against Denmark, which I thought was his best game, ironically. It might have been Denmark. He got in off the left, right? Because this is what you've got to bear in mind tactically, Rob, right? So say like someone sussed it out, like Barry Earn, he said about when I was there just after I left as well, Premier League players, they're bigger, they're faster, they're technically better, and they think quicker, right? I think that's a fair assumption. Well, there are a few exceptions, in the lower divisions, but I think that's a fair assumption. Then, like Hudson said this morning, quite rightly, it goes up another notch. Right, there are good club players and there are good international players. Now, what you've got to bear in mind is this tactically, right? So, tying in with the low block thing, right? The same way as, and this is where we were lacking, the same way as you're coming up against players of international class with unbelievable, it's been drilled into them, right? Their playing habits and also the unit within a unit, unbelievable discipline, unbelievable organisation, unbelievable concentration, so rigid you're not going to budge them with the exception of a great trick or the overhead kick that come out of nothing. Long throw flick on and it was away from him and he'd done the overhead kick. Unless you pull something like that out the bag, right? You've got to go a long way to break down all of those things, right? Because I think it's fair to say it's just as valuable, but it's an easier part of the game. It's easier to destroy than it is to create. But if you've got a team that's got they've been unbelievably drilled, and they've got that concentration, they've got that discipline, right? Then it's going to be a tough nut to crack. And I don't think we had it in our locker. I agree with Hudson again. Right, I said to him this morning, I couldn't agree more. I was shocked that he never took one, especially when I saw him in the friendly, because he looked like he was up for it and he wanted it. I was shocked he never took Maddison. I was shocked he never took Grealish, because they relied too much on Harry and Bellingham to buy fouls. Saka maybe a little bit, and it looked like possibly some of our best chances of scoring would have been from a set piece. Although we were lacking Maguire's aerial power, so you've got to be a bit more intricate. It's got to be a bit more sexy. Then you go back to the World Cup Russia, which was circa 1980s Dario Gradi. Holland worked with him at Crewe. So the roll to the side, the dink to the back. So everyone goes like that and follows the dink, then the knockback, and everyone caves in and floods the ball around, floods the box and floods around the ball, and you get the side foot. Header or the side foot volley finish, right? So roll, dink, knockback thing. That was circa 1980s Dario Gradi, Crewe, Alexandra. So I don't think we had enough about us. I thought we were too easy to defend. I thought we made too many wrong decisions tactically. When you get it to the wide man, I thought Saka gave up too easy. What you've got to understand is, if you're playing against a low block or any block, right? And there were times when he could have done it. Even if you just try and take the defender on the outside, by trying to take him on the outside rather than turn back in and roll it inside to Rice, or turn it back out and roll it back to Kyle Walker, right? There's got to be a time when every now and again you've got to go touch and just explode, although he was matched for pace in most games, right? But even if as long as you retain possession, right, you're automatically stretching the pitch. You're automatically pushing them back, and you're stretching the pitch, which might mean more room for a delivery and a run from a forward, you know, when the delivery comes into the box. Because like I said to Hudson this morning, right, what's got to happen is the fullback who's defending Saka, right, the centre halves, whether it's 2 or 3, and the furthest fullback, and maybe even the nearest midfield player like Holland did with, was it the guy Williams, was his name, where he tried to double up on Saka. Right, what's got to happen? The bottom line is they've got to take their shape off of the guy who's pressing the ball. Right, so you're automatically pushing them back, which gives you room for a delivery, which we never, not enough crosses, which they're going on about Harry Kane, which we can come to. And then by pushing them back and the delivery coming in, the forwards then can just make their run and try and get across people, or pull at the far post if it's more of a dink to the far post rather than a whip. And win the header, get the attempt on goal.
Well, since you mentioned him, let's talk a little bit about Harry Kane, and it still links to the tactics that England employed. Surprisingly, for probably the wider audience, he didn't complete 90 minutes in a good portion of the matches that we played, all the way to the final and including the final. For me and for a lot of people, it's possibly a popular narrative, and again, I've been a little bit in and out the last week or so, certainly from about the quarterfinals onwards. it's didn't look fit. Didn't
Oh,
like he
listen, I'm
did he
gonna
look
be on.
fit, or
Yeah,
are
no,
we not playing to his
it weren't
strengths?
fit, Rob. 100%. 100% he weren't. This is where they're on idea to nothing. I feel sorry for Harry and I feel sorry for Gareth Southgate. Right? Only they know what goes on behind closed doors. You can't divulge. You can't give the game away. You've got to be discreet. You can't let the press know this is happening. That's because it will leak, because that's the type of people they are. Right? Very few can be trusted. So then other countries, members of the press of other countries and members of other countries' coaching staff will pick up on that. Right? And they can adjust their game plan accordingly. But I guarantee, without knowing, I guarantee, maybe I'm stating the obvious. In no way, shape, or form was he fully fit, right? So he was on idea to nothing as a player because he wants to play, but he'd been nursing a back injury at the back end of his domestic season in Germany. He'd scored 40-odd goals in Germany, but a lot of them goals would have come from his meat and drink, right? Food and drink, and his meat and two veg, staple diet, crosses, 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 and more crosses, right? And we never supplied enough crosses. So consequently, he's coming back to get the ball, right? It didn't come as deep as he normally does. I suspect that's because he knows he can't spin in, because he's never really had the pace, and even more so, he didn't have the pace in this tournament, which I think was as a consequence of nursing a back injury. Now, where the managers are not into nothing, if you don't play him, they're going to say, well, why aren't you playing a guy who's our talisman, our record goal scorer at international level, right?
Captain.
Not only that, the captain and a record-breaking season in Germany, why aren't you playing him, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, you're down to the thing with regards to the stuff leaking out about him nursing an injury, etc., etc. And I think they try to masquerade it a little bit. And I think as a consequence, the team suffered and Harry suffered. Although he's never been blessed with that post where you had forwards that I played against, like Ian Wright, maybe he was good at Ian Wright. He'd come short to show and then he'd just spin. Right. If you was flat, he'd catch you out. Right. So, you know, the bottom line is he ain't got the pace to do that. I spoke about, and everybody spoke about, the world and his wife and some pundits about not getting in behind. Right. What the real parlance is, threatening the back. Right. So when you're coaching, that probably be the phrase you use about getting in behind. Right. Harry couldn't do that. So we couldn't stretch teams. Sometimes he couldn't do it because the space in behind was denied, but it shouldn't be just left to the centre forward. I didn't see Saka make any angled runs in off the fullback, right, for a little ball threaded through. I didn't really see Foden, other than when he got hold of the game by the scruff of the neck and he was at his best when we were struggling. And he says, you know what? They're staying rigid with I think it was a back five, and the fullbacks wouldn't move. So now he says, well, I'm going to give you a marking problem. And if you don't come with me, then we've got an automatic overload. And he got in off the line and he come and played with the midfield players. He came and played with Rice. He came and played with, I think it might have been Mainu. He came and played with Bellingham. And we had a 4v3 or a 3v2 in situations. But again, we never got any joy out of it. Then you've got the situation with the left back, right? So it's like I said, I said it 3 tournaments ago. Why is he doing it? Because and he had another permutation. He had another left-footed left back, but he wouldn't play him, and he played a right-footed left back. And I said, what's going to happen is he's going to slow the attack down. He's going to check in on his right foot. You can't fade the ball in behind a retreat in defence, a back 3 or a back 4 or a back 5. You ain't going to supply crosses on the run for your centre forwards. And then as soon as you check inside, it kills the momentum of the attack. It slows the game down. It gives the opposition a chance to come marking on the outside. So they're inside to out and squeeze up at the same time, right? And then lo and behold, you're going to have to do the play round and go around the other side. That's exactly what happened. And where Southgate's concerned, I think that's gambled that backfired. As well as the Trent Alexander-Arnold one, that backfired. Another thing that backfired was... maybe he should have swapped Saka over with Foden, because a lot of the time I noticed that their fullbacks were doing what I encouraged people to do, and I drilled it, which was shutting the line off and denying any outside space, force Saka inside, and he gave up. Rather than trying to wriggle inside and play off the front man, he turned it inside to Rice or Mainu, or he turned it out to Kyle Walker. right? So again, no width equals no crosses, equals no supply for Harry Kane, right? Then I said about threatening the back. Sometimes you can make the forward threaten the back with the pass you play. That's what Cole Palmer contributed when he came on, right? And Bellingham, it's giving Watkins the eye treatment, and then we're saying you see him punch one in down the side. So with the pass you play, you can actually make the forward make that run, which leads to them threatening the back. We didn't do it. I just thought we were probably inferior in terms of our DNA, particularly against Spain.
Well, let's touch on that. You've highlighted Saka and illustrated Saka. He, certainly wasn't our worst player at the tournament, but you've highlighted one or two of his, we'll say shortcomings on previous episodes of this podcast and briefly here.
Their coaching points, Rob. Their options. I'm giving him options. I'm giving you options. What I saw, what could have been, Harry could have been advised. Listen, what I'm going to say to you. This is important because you're saying but by far he wasn't our worst player in our tournament. A lot of people were saying he was the best player in our tournament. A lot of the press and a lot of pundits. Listen,
chance.
Because you've had a lot of touches, doesn't mean you're England's best player. It's what you do. It's what you do with the touches.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, I'm not out to hammer Saka. I think he's a delightful player. But I'm saying more should be got out of him in terms of the advice he was given. And you might have to do this. I would be saying you might have to do this so that you can unlock it for him. As in stretching the game by running him outside, then turn it out, come back to Cole, because we've pushed them back. Then he can whip the ball in and the forwards make their runs across. There weren't enough crosses. There weren't enough shots. There weren't enough intricate play around the box, a la Maddison or Grealish. When I see Maddison in the friendly before they went, and I said, what I like about him, I said, he's got to go. What I like about him is the way he plays the little give and goes. Then he'll set the ball, and then he'll get out and clear the space for somebody else. That's basically rotations to get somebody else on the ball. You know, we lacked all that. We lacked all of that. And then, listen, while we're talking tactically, I understand you've got to have, as near as damn it, a settled back four, back five, back six. Right, so depending on the system you play, goalkeeper and back four, goalkeeper and back five. As near as damn it, you want that settled. As near as damn it, you want your settled screening midfield player or players. All right, so he swaps a couple for Mainu, but Rice was nailed on. He didn't do what he does for Arsenal. He settles for that. Maybe he's told to settle for that, right? I cannot for the life of me, though, understand, excuse me, I cannot for the life of me understand why you take all these forward players, extra forward players, like Watkins, who came on and made an impact, Palmer, who came on and made an impact, Tony was brought on in one game with a minute to go. Right? So a more athletic version maybe of Harry Kane. He can buy free kicks. He can hold it up. He can make it stick. He's sly. He's crafty. He'll buy fouls. He'll look out the corner of his eye, see one coming in, do the Fosbury flop and get you a free kick. Strong in the air. He'll have a strike with either foot. He'll get his body in, etc., right? A very dominant physical presence. Anthony Gordon. Right?
That's what I was going to say.
Right? So in terms of posing different types of problems for the opposition, why weren't we more proactive and why didn't we take more of a chance, more of a gamble, go and try and win the game rather than wait not to lose it, right, and consolidate and then maybe nick an equaliser or nick a goal at the end? I don't get it because I think at least the punters would say, well, he had a go. Yeah, maybe it was the wrong decision. Maybe it was the right decision. You're going to be an island to nothing anyway. But what you do, if you're going to go out, you'll go out swinging, and you'll make contact with one. You know what I mean? And the opposition go over.
Well, Anthony Gordon, what I was going to say a couple of minutes ago was you were highlighting the lack of crosses and the lack of playing to the strengths of our centre forward and Tasman and captain Harry Kane. Anthony Gordon's, admittedly, we're well-known champions of him. This season just gone, and we will try and do a season review before the new season starts, I promise. But we are well-known champions of Anthony Gordon in the season he had, and I think a lot of people would agree. Good old-fashioned winger, can get down the line, can get inside, puts crosses in. Could he have been a better supply to Harry Kane? Quite possibly. Was he not? Was he held back because Harry Kane, like you would say, Southgate knew Kane was not fully fit and less mobile, and did he play other players to try and mask that? It's difficult to say, but the bottom line is Anthony Gordon had 4 minutes at the tournament.
Diabolical. Waste of time taking him. Waste of time taking Luke Shaw if he weren't going to be playing in the last couple of group game, or the last group game, plus the quarter, plus the semi, because it totally defeats the object of the exercise in terms of supplying your forwards. You know what's going to happen with, which I've covered with regards to Trippier. I think magnificent pro, magnificent servant, and done really well for us. He can't help it. Bottom line, you know what I mean? If you want to really nitpick, right, I would say as good as much pace as he's got, Kyle Walker, he got in some fantastic crossing positions, which I think if Trippier had been there, it would have been, I would say, 99 times out of 100, Trippier would put in a better delivery, and it would have been a better delivery and a better goal scoring opportunity. So you know, you've got all these little, like, tiny little details where you think, well, you know what, he was in that, what a great position that was. Oh, we've blown it. Well, we might have got a corner out of one was cleared, one he over it, another one he under it. Well, those four, you think if that had been Trippier, I think that might have been three fantastic deliveries for someone to get on the end of. We didn't get enough support in advance of the ball. Because Anthony Gordon, you said he come on, more or less as soon as he come on, he got a ball off of a back player. He turned on it and he threaded a ball. He punched it in the inside left position. And then I think it might have been Foden controlled it, or someone controlled it. They went to wriggle on the turn. Then they said, no, decided not to. They set it sideways again or backwards. Right? We don't try, just every now and again, maybe 1 in 6, try and roll the guy or try and turn him like the Continentals do. They'll try and turn you. The Argentinians, I remember doing a session about it. The Argentinians particularly good at it. It doesn't always have to be a forward pass and another forward pass. It could be a forward pass and then a turn and a pass, or a roll and a pass to get you further up the field and to get you behind them. We didn't have that. No real. The way to get behind defences, if the grass is there, a pass. If the grass ain't there, it's a dribble. Well, who did we have who had it in their locker? No. Sorry.
Not many dribblers.
No.
Not enough,
listen, I remember doing an essay at school. English, might have been English literature, English language, I'm not sure, one of the two. And this is what I'd say about our Euros. Good effort, 8 out of 10.
B.
Mate, yeah,
B plus,
B
minus.
Yeah, B plus. Well, we're B, aren't we? At the end of the day,
Spain,
Spain are A, we're B.
We're
B. We're second. Yeah, we're second to Spain. But it's so many ingredients now, and whoever comes in, it's going to be really interesting. But there were so many ingredients, a few pluses. But again, if you're giving it a score report, unfortunately, I think it was more in the minus column than there were in the plus column. And if you want to go into it in minute detail, we need another 3 podcasts.
Well, we'll try and manage another one on this little mini series this evening if you're up for it. But you said Keith posted me a minute ago, small details or minor details. You said one of the two, and you highlighted about 2, 3, 4, 5 minor details that England did not do. And again, from me as the layman, certainly the comparative layman, if those minor details go correctly or well, or as planned or as tactically planned, if the majority of them, or brilliantly, if all of them go well, then you could be winning the game quite comfortably, couldn't you?
Yeah. That boils down to your decision making and how much ahead you are of the game, like mentally. I mean, we're probably, you can count on one hand, and Bellingham would be the latest one. Probably ahead in terms of his development. He's probably ahead. Before that, I don't know, the likes of Gascoigne, well ahead, like superior, like Sharp, but it's the decision making, Rob. You know, some of the decision making in terms of settling for. Like I said, I understand the concept of being patient, but I just thought we settled too easily for not going in behind, not passing in behind, not taking people on to get even make the pitch bigger, make the run or the dribble on the outside. We settled for defeat. I understand that. That was one of his things, one of his sayings. John Cartwright, going back to that. You know, if you find that avenue shut off, he said, accept defeat. That's what he used to say, accept defeat and turn the ball out. Let's keep it and do the play round. But then when you're doing the play round, what about when it comes to the first play, the little nick round the corner? You know what I mean? Because it might be something they're not ready for. But then we never had the pace up front to do that until Watkins came on. So what I don't understand is I don't understand taking. He said, I think he said, I'm paraphrasing more than slightly, but you know, it's a very forward thinking or forward sort of leaning, forward heavy squad. Well, play them, give them minutes, play them, give the opposition things to think about, give the opposition. And if whoever you got next is a scouting report, oh, this is a thing, and then all of a sudden in the next game, no, it's completely different. You understand? Because that's what the top nations do, unless they've got like a rigid DNA, like your Spanish. Which, by the way, I said after the Russia World Cup, they were talking about so and so not being there. They weren't even there. It might have been the Argies. Brazil went out. They went out. Someone else went there. I said, listen, why they're not there? They'll be away in the corner somewhere getting their act together. And one of them I mentioned was Holland. And another one I mentioned was Spain. Right? Although I didn't have money on them, thinking this one. And I said, but they'll be going away in the corner quietly getting their act together. What we got to do is we've got to push on and on and on, but we don't. We don't. It's just like it's sort of like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And that's how it's been since I've started doing bits and bobs from 1988 onwards. And then I was a coach educator from 88 to 97. And I've seen the specimen sessions, I've seen the politics, I've seen the in-house arguments. I'm not betraying any competencies because it's like basically old news now. It's just coming straight this time from the horse's mouth. This is coming straight from the horse's mouth. This is not hearsay. I was there. I saw it. I heard it. I heard the politics. I heard the rumours. I heard what had been said between him and what he said to the I think it was director of coaching or technical director. He had some title, Charles Hughes. And there was all sorts of rows. I even saw a row between him and a candidate. He come and done a lecture in a lecture theatre one night, and someone raised the issue. Peter Reid was mischievously blowing down the geezer's ear. And he said, Brazil just strung something like 34 passes together, but they lost the ball. They lost the ball there, or they lost the opportunity to cross it. And Peter Reid's like, anyway, this geezer, I forget who it was anyway, but it was from another pro club.
Well, 20 seconds, John.
Yeah. Charles, you said if you want any kind of success on this course, you'll comply with this philosophy.
Well, there's a very interesting sentence to end this particular episode on regards to the FA and culture, etc. So thanks again for watching all. We will try and do another fairly quickly.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks, everyone.